The new generation of iPhones is on its way. Tech giant Apple announcing the next lineup for its flagship product, available later in the month. Mark New has our details.
5 stunning colors.
The new iPhone 15 arrives with a more powerful processor, brighter screen, and a 48-megapixel camera with focus and depth control. The device uses a USB-C port, an indicator that those old lightning cables are being phased out. The higher-end iPhone 15 Pro cameras allow users to switch between 3 focal lengths, and the Pro Max version features a 5x telephoto lens at 120 millimeters. The 15 Pros also can capture spatial video, which can be viewed for an immersive experience on Apple's $3,500 Vision Pro headset, set to hit the market next year. With the new line ranging from $800 to $1,200 for base models, success may hinge on how much people are willing to spend.
Folks are maxed out on their borrowing, and so they don't have a lot of money coming into the second half of the year. Not personal cash and not borrowing capability. A lot of them have maxed out their credit cards, and that means the ability to buy this phone is reduced. That's not Apple's problem to solve, but it's going to be a problem for sales.
Apple is doing its best to offer features that one would rather not live without. Even if you don't have cell service, the iPhone 15 satellite capabilities can now message emergency roadside services such as AAA.
They'll message you directly and dispatch help to your exact location with the right equipment to get you moving.
The true killer app is that satellite connectivity for when you're stranded, now moving to AAA and automotive, because that's something that I would pay money for if I had a child and I was worried about a child, spouse, or whatever, being able to contact anybody for help.
Apple also unveiled its new Apple Watch Series 9, which introduces the double tap to control the device.
Especially convenient for those common situations when your other hand is occupied, like walking the dog or holding a cup of coffee. We think you'll use this all the time.
Apple says the Watch Series 9 is the company's first ever carbon neutral product. Apple also says it's in the process of eliminating all plastic from its packaging by the end of next year. Its goal is to make sure all of its devices have a net zero climate impact by 2030. While that will benefit the environment, it could also boost business, with an increasing amount of young people growing environmentally conscious with their purchases. Mark New, CGTN, Palo Alto, California.
Okay, if you're like me, you want to find out a bit more about these gadgets, and for that we're joined by Maribel Lopez. She is the founder and principal analyst of Lopez Research. Thanks very much for joining us, coming on the program. I want to begin by asking you your biggest takeaway from the event, because it seems like people always wait to see how Apple's going to change things from year to year and how much it's going to cost us to adapt to these changes. But is that going to be the case this year?
Well, what we've really seen is something that is very predictable but popular, and that is an improvement in smartphone camera. Smartphone cameras drive sales, and it was a win across the whole portfolio for that. We're seeing a new chip every year, which allows you to do more on-device capability, which I think is going to be really important as we enter this generative AI era, and people are putting more interesting AI software on hardware devices. The USB ports were a big win all around. Nobody wanted to carry a specialized cable, so I think that's a win globally for everyone.
Let's talk more about these changes, because you talked about the phone. As I understand it now, you can get 48 megapixel, 7 different lenses, basically what it amounts to. I mean, I was always impressed with the phone on the iPhone 14. So how much better can it get?
We're really approaching that concept where if you were thinking of a high-end camera, if you were that more prosumer, you might not need to go there. But the reality is this camera was made for everyone. And the idea was that it is better for night photography, which we still have issues with. It gets more clarity. And lest we forget, most consumers are still probably touting a 3-year-old phone. So this is going to be a significant upgrade for them to a point where they feel like they can get portrait quality on a smartphone.
Yeah, titanium body, it's going to be more durable, it's going to be lighter. I want you to talk a bit more about the USB-C connection, to why this is so important, because it is frustrating to buy a new computer and have to get new cables, new phone, buy new cables. I have drawers filled with stuff like that.
Well, one of the things that was really interesting about this is if you think of the ecosystem of the accessories that are built for smartphones, for homes in general, for electronic devices, we were really moving towards USB-C. And this really opens up the opportunity for an iPhone user to use any type of accessory that is USB-C instead of just one that was made for, say, Lightning. And I think that that's going to be a big win, both for the ecosystem of people that supply devices, but also for the consumers that want to buy the device of choice.
Well, what about China's relationship with Apple? Because I know the government is obviously pushing back on a lot of government employees who perhaps had the Apple in the past.
Yeah, it's obviously concerning, but I think it's too early to call this as a major issue. It could extend into other government-controlled or government-influenced businesses, and that could still be an issue. But I think if we look at the power of the entire consumer market, we're not there yet for a China ban on iPhones in totality. So I think we're really posturing right now, and there's quite a bit of geopolitical posturing going on around the world about what technology should be available where, and this is one of these levers that I think China is playing right now and perhaps doing successfully.
And what about manufacturing?
Now, on the manufacturing front, it is not that easy to just simply move your manufacturing. There has been some diversification in terms of Apple manufacturing, but it would still take time for them to really move out of China. And frankly, it does not seem that the desire is there at this point. So I really do think that there will be a meeting of minds between the company and the country, and that we'll see some progress there, but just not yet.
Yeah, one would think it also wouldn't be cost effective in any way either. Let's talk about some of the other challenges for the brand, both in terms of for the iPhone, for the Apple Watch, for laptops.
What we've seen globally is that there's a device slowdown. We saw it in the PC category. We're starting to see it in smartphones. We're even seeing it a bit in watches, although I have to say the fact that the smartwatch category is still making up about 10% of their last quarterly earnings is quite positive. We expect that there will continue to be a slowdown in device purchases. However, it is believed, particularly with some of these upgrades, such as the USB-C and the better camera, that Apple will hold its own moving forward and could, in fact, gain market share at a very critical time of pivot in the industry when we look at the whole global landscape.
You know, Maribel, I hope you had the chance to hear our very solid report from Mark New there, where he talked about packaging being such an important issue, especially to the younger generation. You talked about that a bit earlier with people having all these cords, these batteries that they can't get rid of. How much of an impact is the environment having on these devices?
Well, one of the things that we saw is that it was not just a drive-by discussion of sustainability at the Apple event. We talked about new material innovation with fine woven. We talked about getting to carbon neutral with stores, with facilities. We've talked a lot about could the watch be carbon neutral with the right combination of bands. So I think there's definitely a focus on material engineering to create more sustainability. We got rid of leather. So there has been quite a bit of change happening in this past year, and a lot of it was material innovation and sustainability.
Let's look ahead to Huawei's launch later this week. Not a lot of time left, but what can you tell me about that?
We're expecting that it's going to be more of the same, right? What are the things that drive sales for companies? It's either going to be cheaper, a better screen, a better camera, and I expect that we'll see similar things happen with Huawei.
Maribel Lopez, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for your insight. We really appreciate it.